This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea. I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week we're heading to Vietnam, home of this week's guest yacht, the Seawind 1190. Today we will 1. Review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking what would Sylvia say. 3. Naval gaze at an innovation or technology that just might make life aboard a little easier. 4. Have a look at the used market for 3 to 5-year-old pre-owned comparables. And 5. Give it a Dave score and compare the results with all our previously reviewed yachts. As always, all this fun will be sandwiched between a pairing of wine, in this case a spirit, and a work of art from the same region as the guest yacht, in an effort to capture the culture and people who gave birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head far east around the globe to the southern tip of the African continent and the yards of last week's future yacht at Voyage Yachts in Cape Town. From here, we continue northeast all the way to Vietnam and the home of this week's guest yacht at the yards of Corsair Marine. Finally, we take a quick hop north to the distilleries of this week's spirits pairing, Tanaka Moonlight Muji Shochu. Shochu production started about 500 years ago in southern Japan. An authentic Japanese spirit resulted from a combination of the basic sake brewing technique and the distillation method. The development of this unique method itself underlies the history of shochu. During the Edo period, 1600 to 1868, shochu was one of the many gifts sent to the shogunate. It had value not only as a beverage, but also as a disinfectant for sword wounds. Quickly, the Okinawa Islands and southern Kyushu regions could no longer fulfill the increasing demand. As a result, officials started to order sake breweries in the region to produce shochu from sake lees. This is when the term awamori started to appear in official documents to differentiate this locally produced shochu and valued Okinawa liquor. The name has been used ever since. Today, shochu is largely a casual drink enjoyed throughout Japan. However, it also played special roles in rituals and celebrations. Shochu was a way to communicate with the gods, welcome important guests, and to build communities with friends and family. Tanaka Moonlight Muji Shochu is a barley shochu. Creamy and sweet, this barley shochu goes well on its own, on a little ice, or mixed in a little hot water with ume. Dry with a light malty undertone, it's easy to create amazing cocktails with this light and clean vodka. Moonlight Muji Shochu goes well with salt-rubbed grilled fish, pork, and fries with salsa. Having a look at the 1190 here as she approaches, I guess it's an acquired taste. It's a very different hull form, and it has its pluses and minuses. Aesthetically, it's probably not my favorite. I really don't love that rub rail. It looks like it's, splitting the hull there. And those large sort of oddly curved side hull windows don't do anything for me, but I am sure there are those that enjoy the aesthetic of this particular vessel, as it, regardless, looks quite aggressive in the water. That aft full carbon arch really does look good both here and in real life, and provides a wonderful spot for extra solar off the aft side of the boat. The forward area is well done. This is where Seawind really shines, is the use of the forward deck and creating a faux front cockpit without really having a cockpit up there. They do that nice step just behind the nets and put fitted factory cushions there, and it just looks fantastic on both this as well as the 1370. Overall, an aggressive-looking boat. That bowsprit up there. If it's your taste, it's your taste. There's really nothing wrong with the overall look of the vessel. Given the technical and international nature of our audience, it only seems right that the sponsor of this week's video is Redux Engineering. Redux Engineering offers manufacturers located in North America, Western Europe, UK, and Australia who currently buy or manufacture key parts domestically a safe, easy, and no-cost risk way to take advantage of the proven 20 to 50% savings that can be realized through high-quality offshore manufacturing. They do this with no upfront costs or consulting fees and only receive remuneration as a percentage of the customer-verified savings over time. The customer always realizes a substantial net savings. Redux offers domestic manufacturers enhanced supply chain security and found margin that goes straight to the bottom line. Connect with them at reduxengineering.com. Our comparables this week are, of course, the Seawind 1190, the Seawind 1170, the Bally Cat Smart, and the Bally Cat Space. Obviously, two of these are very performance-oriented, and two are much more accommodations-oriented, although the Bally Cat Smart is attempting to bridge that gap. The profiles of all of these, I would say the most attractive is certainly the Seawind 1170, and the profile of that and their 1370 are very good-looking vessels. Next would probably be the Seawind 1190, then the Bally Cat Smart, and finally the Bally Cat Space, which of course in the truncated length here does look a tad guppyish. Hopping onto the cabin top, the only one with a fly bridge or fly lounge, of course, is the Bally Cat Space. In addition, it has that amazing solid front foredeck, which provides just fantastic space. The next would be the Bally Cat Smart, of course, with, again, the solid foredeck and a front cockpit without internal access to it. In both the Cat Space and the Cat Smart, you have that amazing aft garage door that sacrifices a fair amount of the outdoor aft cockpit, but still leaves you some and provides you an amazing size of saloon in a vessel of this size. The Seawind 1170 and 1190, much more traditional in their layout. Of course, there's nothing on the rooftop. This is a more performance-oriented vessel. And the boom's way down. Although, again, the Bally Cat Smart, they've lowered the boom and they've put the helms out aft on each hull, giving you fantastic vision and control and sense of feel. Seawind 1170, of course, their helms are sort of midships, and they're bulkhead mounted. The idea is that you're going to look through the window of the saloon, the aft window, and then as well through the fore window of the saloon in order to navigate, or really reach your head out the side. Not my favorite position. I understand how well isolated you are, how well sheltered you are, but wow, I've seen folks trying to see their sails from that position. It doesn't look real comfy. Hopping into the interiors of these boats now, this is where Seawind does something really quite cool, and that is a galley down in vessels of this size. The 1190 has a very nice galley down configuration, which really opens up your saloon in this format. The other nice thing that they do is that athwartship forward berth, giving you full three-side access to the berth, which is very, very convenient, much like a balance. On the 1190, you can see you have a fair amount of space in that saloon. And of course, you have a good-sized aft cockpit, and then you have the faux forward cockpit. And again, full three-side access in the port side owner's hull. You have a full hull there all to yourself. So, here the layout really makes a lot of sense and gives a lot of space given the size of this vessel. The Bally Cat space, of course, with that massive aft saloon area, or the massive saloon, because they sacrificed the aft cockpit, but they still have a nice aft settee on the very aft of the boat. And then the garage door opens up to give you, what can only be described as a massive saloon and galley in a vessel of this size. When you get down here, of course, there is no internal access to that massive football field solid foredeck, but you've got good wide access up each side. Looking at the Bally Cat Smart, again, you have the benefit of the lifting garage door. And you still have a larger, actually, aft cockpit area than the Bally Cat space. And then you have your outboard far aft helm stations, which really give you fantastic visibility and connection with the ocean. Amazing visibility, sight lines to your telltales. Very, very convenient. I understand you're exposed, but you can have biminis there. And again, I just think the control it gives you over the vessel is fantastic. And then you have even more of a genuine front cockpit area there with proper settee as well as the solid foredeck. Moving now to the Seawind 1170, again, that galley down configuration really opens up the saloon. And of course, you have your athwartship master hull and full three-side access master berth in the forepeak there on the port side. So overall here, when you're looking at these layouts, obviously your cat space has, the majority of space and luxury, but you are sacrificing a lot of performance on that. The Cat Smart, we'll see when we get to the numbers whether it is managing to thread the needle. The Seawind 1190, the layout here looks good. Both Seawind layouts look great, and I do love the galley down in a vessel of this size, really opening up that saloon space. Okay, hopping into accommodations now. Your Seawind 1190, we already talked about this. You got that beautiful athwartship, three-side access. And then if we go to the Bally Cat space, you have an athwartship, three-side access VIP in the starboard forepeak. And then full hull owners on the port side with an aft berth that you have, I would say, semi three-side. Let's call it 2.5 side access in a fore aft berth there, but a lot of space in that hull. We've already talked about the 1190, the Cat Smart, even smaller now with, I would call it butt scoot beds in the aft. You've got your owner's hull there on the starboard side. So you're sacrificing some here, but we'll see how that pans out in the numbers. And of course, we've already looked at the Seawind 1190. Okay, let's get into the numbers now. Heading across the top line, you can see that the Seawinds are the more costly of the group here, with the 1170 at 468,000 and the 1190 at 413. That's followed very closely by the Bally Cat Space at 397, or say 400, and then the Bally Cat Smart 60 grand down at 340,000. Looking across at the length overall, it is the 1170 at 39.25 feet. I'm sorry. It's the Bally Cat Space at 41 feet. Then the Seawind 1170 at 39.25. The Seawind 1190 at 39, and the Bally Cat Smart at 37.1. Beam on these, looking across here, the largest is, again, the Cat Space at 21.5. Next is going to, well, the Tide. The Seawinds are identical at 21.3, and then the Bally Cat Smart at 21.1. On the draft here, your shallowest draft is the Bally Cat Smart at 3.6 feet, followed by the 1170 at 3.75, the Bally Cat Smart at 3.9, and the 1190 at 4.4 feet. As far as displacement goes, it is the Seawind 1190, the lightest at 6.6 tons. That is then followed by the Bally Cat Smart at 8.4 tons. Then it's the Seawind 1170 at 9.2. And finally, the Bally Cat Space at 9.4. So again, this Cat Smart, it's going to be fascinating to see what the KSPs are on this one. Upwind sail area. So the winner here is, again, the Bally Cat Smart at 1,090 or 1,100 square feet. The next one is your Seawind 1190 at 1,000 square feet. Next is the Seawind 1170 at 910, and finally the Bally Cat Space at 850. Heading down into capacities here, as far as propulsion, it's the Seawind 1170 at twin 29s. Then the Bally Cat Smart and the 1190 are twin 20s, and finally the Cat Space at twin 15s. Seems a little light on power for that vessel, but I guess you will see. The capacities as far as fuel and water goes, it is the 1170 out in front with 520 liters of fuel and 1,000 liters of water. Next, it's a little difficult to tell here, but I would give it to the Bally Cat Space at 400 and then 760. Then it's going to be the Bally Cat Smart at 400 and 660, and the Seawind 1190 at 269 and 700. As far as all those important measurements that only our friends at Balance give us in totality, I did find fridge capacity for the Seawinds. So you've got 5.3 cubic feet on the 1170 and 4.6 cubic feet on the 1190, and that compares with 4.7 cubic feet on the Cat Space. Okay, hopping into the technical details here, looking at the overall hull construction, it would be the Seawind 1170 that looks to be the best here, with fiberglass with carbon reinforcements in key areas, vacuum-infused vinyl ester, that's pure vinyl ester, on a PVC foam core. The 1190, I have it rated as vacuum-infused polyester on a PVC foam core, which surprises me because it may be an error, because the other Seawinds that I know of are all pure vinyl ester. The Bally's are a infused foam sandwich with polyester resin and a vinyl ester exterior protection against osmosis. So everybody's about the same. They're good hulls, but based on the data I have here, the Seawind 1170 would take the lead with vinyl ester resin. Battery capacity here, Seawind does display it. I could not find it for the Bally's. You've got 4.8 kilowatt hours on the 1170 and a very meager 2.4 kilowatts on the kilowatt hours on the 1190. Okay, let's get into the actual performance indicators here. So sail area to displacement, or an indicator of power. Who is the winner? It is the 1190 at 26.8. With the next one in line, the Bally Catamaran at 24.9, a respectable number. Then it's the 1190 at 19.5 and the Bally Cat Space at 17.9. So then displacement to hull length at the waterline, or an indicator of heaviness. Here it is the least number wins, and it is again the Seawind 1190 at 128.7. But again, second place, not too far behind, is the Bally Catamaran at 143.6. Then it's the Seawind 1170 at 161.9 and the Bally Cat Space at 176.4. Okay, rubber to the road. The KSP number, or an indication of percentage of wind speed in 10 knots of wind. Here again, it is the Seawind 1190 with a decisive lead, achieving 80% wind speed. But the Bally Catamaran achieving 75% wind speed, which is, again, highly reasonable given what you have here and the amount of space you have and the price that you're paying. Remember, this was only 340,000 euro as a base. Next is the Seawind 1190 at 65% and the Bally Cat Space at 62%. If what you see here gets you thinking about purchasing a yacht, please mention the channel to the manufacturer broker. I love hearing from viewers that their dream purchases may have started here. And who knows, the mention might just get me invited on a test sail or two. If you don't have a contact at your target yacht brand, feel free to drop me a line at dave@navalgazing@campdavid.com, and I'd be thrilled to connect you with the right person. Of course, if you enjoy the content, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button, then share the channel with a couple of friends and hit the like button. It's free and really helps the channel. You can also join our crew on Patreon, where you can enjoy ad-free viewing as well as downloads of the Excel specification and PowerPoint layout comparisons while helping the channel for a few dollars a month. You can find a link to the Naval Gazing at Camp David Patreon channel in the description below, where you can also click to receive information on some really cool virtual sailing training. Hopping aboard, what would Sylvia say? I can just about assure you that Sylvia wouldn't go for this one. Again, it is a matter of taste whether you like the aesthetics of the exterior of this boat. Obviously very functional. I do love that forward faux cockpit. I love the carbon arch in the aft here and the way it nicely houses extended solar. Hopping onto the sugar scoop, you're up and in. You've got, fairly good access down those weather decks, but those exposed lines really do concern me as a tripping hazard heading back. I'd prefer that they were housed. Really nice, that arch, again, just love it. I had to touch it, that carbon arch. It looks so nice. Nice helm seats, double-sized helm seats. The position, again, not to my taste. Sitting here, I have to really crane out to see, not as bad as, say, on the 1170, but I still have to crane my neck out. Those windows have to be removed. They do not drop. They physically have to be removed if you want a clear view through the saloon and out the front windows. The aft area there, pretty good. I do like the integration of that third-party barbecue between the two aft seats. And again, you because the the bimini top doesn't extend full out the sides. You can crane your neck out and see your sail plan. As you can see here, looking around the saloon, that galley down really provides fantastic space, a sense of space in a vessel of this size. And it provides you a great sized galley as well as a very stable galley. What I mean by that being, you can wedge yourself in here in heavy seas and do it very safely. The other big benefit to me is I can leave my dirty dishes in the sink. I don't have to look at them. I like that. Looking around, though, I think very, very functional galley. Really nice the way the ceiling opens into the saloon and doesn't make you feel cramped. This berth here, fore aft side berth, it's a good use of space. I'd probably end up storing stuff there most of the time. And then into your aft head, very, very nicely laid out. Again, for a boat of this size, it's great. The only criticism I really have as we look around here is that just there's so much exposed fared fiberglass. It feels like I'm living in a shower stall instead of just showering in a shower stall. I know that some will be critical of that comment in that, it's easy to maintain, but it is my home, or at least it wants to be my home in my application. And so I just couldn't deal with that. I would have to, if I'm going to have this much exposed fared fiberglass, I'm going to have an ORC and be going 25 knots. Heading downstairs, again, you got a really nice sized master head, especially for a vessel of this size. And then swinging around, you have a beautiful little desk here and that sort of carbon look to the finish. Nice shelving areas, fiddles everywhere. And here's your athwartship berth. Good access, not too high. And I think you could easily sit up in that bed and you'd have straight sight lines out those side windows. But again, so much shiny fared plastic, it would drive me nuts. I would have to do at least what Nick did and start to put some vinyl wraps on a bunch of this stuff. Okay, our naval gazing for today. Today we're going to look at some fun tenders. What would we do if we had the option for a brand new tender with a brand new boat like Nikki and Jason do? The first off we're going to look at here is an Avion E-Jet, the 450. It's 850 kilograms, which is really quite heavy. That's 1,900 pounds. But it's seat 6. It'll do over 30 knots for an hour and a half. It has 4 hours of range at normal use, 8 hours at 5 knots, so 40 nautical miles. That's not bad, but again, I don't want to get caught with a tied down and trying to drag 1,900 pounds back into the ocean. So looking to our next one, it's the Silent Tender by Silent Yachts. It's a Silent Tender 400. It's 420 kilograms, or about 1,000 pounds. Again, it's seat 6. It has a 40 nautical mile range at 6 knots, a 20 knot top speed. And obviously a fair amount of space. The aesthetics of it, not to my liking, and I'll bet you the price isn't to my liking either, although I really couldn't find that. Next, we've got Offshore Cruising Tenders, or OCT 400, with the Zero Jet 48V system. Now, here's where your weight really starts to drop. So on this, we're at 441 pounds. You have a 24 nautical mile range at 3 knots. That's too light for me. That has a 10 kilowatt hour battery pack. It does have a 20 knot top speed, but overall, I think the range would kill it for me on here. The one that I really liked was the AST 340 with the Revolve propulsion system. The AST itself, the 340, weighs a svelte 148 pounds. And I forget exactly what the Revolve system works, but it was under, it was around the same weight, I think, honestly. So you're probably looking at under 300 pounds for the entire package. The seats 5, and in this configuration has a bench seat. You can also get the sort of the jockey seat that Great Circle has. They have the smaller version of this without the revolve. But this with the revolve is a really neat package that you can easily pull up onto the shore. If you get caught with a low tide, you can easily drag it with a couple of people back into the water safely. So it has a 22.5 nautical mile range at 25 knots, or 120 nautical mile range at 3 knots. That's incredibly efficient. And it has the same 10 kilowatt hour battery pack that the unit we were talking about before has. And the reason it's that much better is that it's a prop drive, an electric prop drive. So it's far more efficient that way. It has a 25 knot top speed. And as best I can tell, you're probably going to be into it for around 40,000 US by the time you're all said and done. Back on board, again, I really do like the way the aft is laid out on the 1190 here. I really don't like the way those lines are exposed up the weather decks. I do like the fact that you have a better visibility of your sail plan and telltales from the helms. I don't like the fact that I have to physically remove the windows, the aft saloon windows, in order to get a clear view out the forward windows. The foredeck, love the foredeck. Lots of space there. And I really love what Seawind does with their factory cushions on the foredeck. They turn this into a very relaxing and luxurious space. And that's all because of that little step they put in there and the way they design their factory cushions. Beautiful bowsprit. Of course, you know I'd have both those as powered furlers. I won't be hoisting downwind sails up and down. There'll be a UV strip and a power furler. But again, to me, this side deck business here, way too cramped with way too many exposed lines. Just wouldn't be the thing for me at all. I do like the way they have the line bags there. I think you're going to keep your lines nice and clear and clean. Really nicely done that way. And again, I love the arch, love the way the solar panels integrate. And one more look down the side here. You know, again, it's up to you what your aesthetic appeal is here, both on the exterior and on the interior. Probably not my gig, definitely not Sylvia's gig, but functionally, she's an 85% wind speed boat. We like that. Okay, pre-owned comparables. What are we going to compare this to? Well, first up, we are looking at the Naughty-Tech 40 Open, a 2018, so a 6-year-old boat. And we are looking at an asking price of $435,000. Now, the Naughty-Tech 40 Open's a very nice vessel. They've done something similar with their foredeck and factory cushions, and the finish inside the Naughty-Techs is absolutely gorgeous. Here is a prime example of a production boat that really does good interiors with good veneers. Really an excellent vessel that way. So we are comparing that to the 1190 Sail Away at a price of $675,000 US. So again, we take base price and we add 50% to it. So 675 versus the Naughty-Tech 40 Open at 435. I really prefer the 1190's galley down, but the finish and everything else that the Naughty-Tech offers, I like the positioning of the helms on the Naughty-Tech. Some will say they're far too exposed, but I really like that. So I'm afraid I'd save my money and I'd go with the Naughty-Tech on this one. Next up, we are looking at a Fountain Peugeot Isla 40. We're looking at 2021, so it's a 3-year-old vessel. They're asking $525,000. The Fountain Peugeots Overall, I love the aesthetic of their design. I find there's far too much exposed fiberglass. The underside of their bimini there, you can see it is exposed. Even in the saloon segments of the rooftop ceiling area are, exposed fiberglass with inset panels. So that would turn me off. The overall, though, I think again for my applications, the Isla would do a better job for me. I probably again save my $150,000 and go with the Fountain on this one. Although again, I know the hull and the construction and overall performance of the 1190, there's no comparison. It is out in front. Okay, looking at an 1190, so we're looking at a 2024-year-old boat. They are asking $500,000 versus our brand new one at $675,000. Given there's some toys on there, I'd go with the pre-owned vessel. And then something really different. So we're looking at a 2023 Dragonfly 40. Now, this thing is the most beautiful vessel you will probably ever lay your eyes on. I mean, the guys at Dragonfly knocked it out of the park on the aesthetic on this thing, both on the exterior and on the interior. And again, you don't have a lot of room inside a 40-foot trimaran in the main hull there, but what you have is so beautifully executed, and the aesthetics of the exterior are beyond compare. They're just extraordinary. Not to mention, this thing screams. Now, they're asking $878 for a 1-year-old versus our $675. Again, if I had the money, as you can tell in my gushing voice, I would do the Dragonfly on this. I think my usable space on the interior, it's going to be a little less in the Dragonfly, but the quality of that space, the finish, and the overall look and the performance and the functionality of this vessel, I gotta say it's going to be worth the $200,000 extra. And finally, we're looking at a 2022 two-year-old Bally Cat Space. They're asking $500,000 versus our $675. Again, because my focus, I'm not thrilled with the Cat Space KSP. It falls below my required 70%. But again, looking at my requirements and what Sylvia would tolerate, the Cat Space would win on this. Okay, monohull heresy. What do we compare this to? Again, we're adding 20% to the length. So we are sort of into 45, 50-foot vessels on a monohull to get to the same internal capacity and practical use in a monohull that you have in the Catamaran. And our first up is a 2018 Dufour 520. It is, I believe, under 50 feet. So we're looking at a 6-year-old vessel. They're asking $342 versus our $675. Even with the healing, I think Sylvia would go for this one. Next up is a 2022 Elan GT6. Very, very nice vessel, very stylish. They're looking at $614 versus our $675. This one I would have to think real careful about. I would probably end up with the Seawind 1190 and a whole bunch of very high quality vinyl wraps that mimic wood grain. So that's I would say that the Seawind would win out on this one. Next up is a 2018 Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 490. They're asking $367 versus our $675. Half the price. I I don't know. When you get into the smaller Jeanneau's, Sun Odysseys, they really do feel very IKEA-ish, very production-ish. I would probably load up with my vinyl wrap wood grain again and get the Seawind. Next up is a Dufour 470. We're looking at 2022, so 2-year-old boat, 534,000 versus 675. The Dufours, quite nice vessels. I would probably end up, though, with the Seawind. And next up, and finally, is a Hansa 460. A 2022, 2-year-old boat. They're asking 649 versus 675. On this one, I may end up with the Hansa. I really love their hardtops. I love their layouts. It would be a challenging question, I'm sure, depending on the condition of the vessel. But all in all, probably I'd end up with the Hansa on this one. So there we are. Okay, on to the Dave score. How did she do? Well, down. Yeah, I mean, for my application, you know where she ended up. So she's down, rightfully so, right beside an ORC 420, 42, sorry. Not bad company. Again, my application isn't what these boats are built for, so it doesn't do well on the Dave score. That doesn't mean it won't do well on your score. Looking at elegance in the interior, you got 4 out of 10. On the exterior, 5 out of 10. Comfort in the interior, going to give it a 5 out of 10, and comfort in the exterior, going to give it a 5 out of 10. Quality, 7 out of 10, maybe even a little higher. Performance, 8 out of 10, 85% is a great KSP. Lazy Sailor, 8 out of 10. Everything really does come back to the helms there. The condo, 4 out of 10. There's no way you're going to get a real condo feel out of something this size. Geek, 5 out of 10. There's not much to geek out about on this one. And value for the money, 6 out of 10 for my application. Again, emphasizing for my application. Your value for money might be much higher on that one. Well, that's our Waves, Wine, Art, and Ideas for one more week. Obviously, this is not my boat, but it certainly may be yours. Do hope you enjoyed the tour, and we'll be back next week with another interesting vessel. I'm going to leave you now with Unreal by Xuan Khan Nguyen, weaving between minimalism and impressionism with concise layouts and figures. Do hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next week. Cheers.